All right, we have more changes unfolding in the race for Pennsylvania Avenue. Changes that have the Oracle of Wall Street, not Omaha, but Wall Street, BofA's chief financial strategist, Michael Arnett, one of the smartest people on Wall Street, making his voice heard, putting out a prediction over the weekend, telling his clients who he believes will win in November. And the big money is clearly following his lead as new bets for president have soared in the last 48 hours. The clearest and most transparent way to gauge the race, where's the big money moving? These are 8+ figure investors, folks, who are putting their money where their mouth is, and it is causing panic in Washington. Wait till you see this, but before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel, and consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So we are 19 days out before November 5th, and the Harris campaign is finding themselves stuck in quicksand, unable to break out. Democrats are beginning to get deja vu to what it was like right after Biden bombed the debate. The party is leaking like a sieve, now pointing fingers at who's at fault for the current state of play, blaming one another for the utter collapse that they're experiencing in the polls.
Vice President Kamala Harris had a 5-point lead in our last poll taken a month ago, right after the debate. That lead has all but evaporated, Willie. Take a look at this new head-to-head matchup. 48% to 48%. That is what we call a deadlocked race.
And new national polling as Trump and Harris tied. National polling tracks with popular vote margins, right? That's what we're talking about here. Trump now is a shot at winning the popular vote. Look at where national polling was at this time in 2020 and 2016. Biden was up 9.2 and Clinton was up 7 points 3 weeks out from election. There's a reason they say the national polls track right along with the popular vote. This is Democrats' worst fear, a blowout election where there's no chance to play games. This is why Biden got swapped out in the first place. Party bosses were worried we'd see a 1984 style election where Ronald Reagan trounced Walter Mondale, winning every single state beside Minnesota, even California. Reagan won 525 electoral votes to Mondale's 13. That was the direction we were heading before Biden dropped out of the race. If things keep going this way, it's possible we could know the winner on election night. How amazing would that be? And CNN's been losing their minds over this. Trump's numbers are historic, they say. Watch this.
And the bottom line is this. At this particular hour, if you believe the polling, Donald Trump's going to put up the best performance with black voters since Richard Nixon back in 1960. Not 68, since 1960. That's 64 years ago. Among Hispanic voters, Donald Trump's going to put up the best performance for Republicans since 2004 and George W. Bush.
And the media and establishment in Washington is now planning for the Armageddon scenario, wargaming for a Trump sweep. Behind the curtain election scenario, wargaming a Trump sweep, writing if former President Trump wins the election and Republicans keep the House and flip the Senate, the U.S. would witness a dramatic consolidation of new right-wing populist power at scale. Trump would pursue a dramatic expansion of presidential power, gutting the federal bureaucracy, thank goodness, and installing thousands of executive branch loyalists to rip off the guardrails that restrained his first term. And according to Axios, they were given access to a CIA-inspired presentation on how to combat this worst-case scenario, they say, writing, "The big picture, we got our hands on a fascinating private presentation by FGS Global, a worldwide communications and public affairs consultancy advising huge clients on how to prep for various election outcomes. The presentation is based on a CIA method of anticipating, understanding, and navigating geopolitical outcomes." This is an all-hands-on-deck effort at this point. The Harris campaign's so desperate, they're sending her out to Fox News, scheduling her first Fox interview tomorrow evening with Bret Baier. Joe Rogan's people came out yesterday and said top brass from the Harris campaign flew to Austin over the weekend and met with his team, basically begging them for a chance at a Rogan interview. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what panic mode looks like for the Democrats. Try and imagine 1 month ago. Think back to right after the debate. Nobody could get her to even sit down for an interview. When she agreed to a 5-question scripted chat with a local news outlet, it was as if the gates to heaven opened. Well, 4 weeks later, and they're now begging people to interview her. And it's not just the polls that are showing Trump's strength right now, it's the markets. Betting markets now have Trump winning at blowout margins. BofA's chief financial strategist even weighed in over the weekend, telling his clients to gear up for a Trump victory. Take a look at this, showing U.S. election probability outcome with Trump leading by 6 points, a 6-point spread if the election were held today. A Trump win at 53% versus Harris 47%. Also showing congressional outcomes here in this as well, showing if the election were held today, chances of a Republican Senate are now at a mind-blowing 71% to a Dem Senate at 29%, with the House remaining in Democratic control. And he goes into why Trump and Republicans are doing so well suddenly, specifically in swing states, which we know is all that matters, writing, quote, latest win probabilities, Trump 53, Harris 47. Labor market hints at why election close. Employment trends in 7 swing states and, more crucial, 13 swing counties within these states show payroll growth in swing states in line with the national average, 1.6%. But employment growth weaker in the 3 Rust Belt states and even weaker, again, in most important counties within Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. But more relevant, he says, to Wall Street is the probability of a sweep election by either party. Over the last 2 months, he says, the chances of that have been low and stable, only around 30%, allaying investor fears that the election would trigger inflationary higher tariffs, lower taxes, lower immigration, and thus higher bond yields and lower stocks. That was until this week, with Newsweek writing on Sunday, Donald Trump's chances of winning a landslide. Look, when left-wing media begins throwing around the word landslide, you know there's a problem. Panicked phone calls with top Dem pollsters and donors this weekend went into overdrive.
The cross-checking super valuable, right? If a really valuable, well-known to me Republican source and a really valuable, well-positioned, well-known to me Democratic source are saying the same thing about what they're seeing in the private polling, that's really valuable. It's more valuable than just having it from one, for sure. And it gives me a greater sense of confidence of what I feel comfortable bringing to you. There's no doubt in my mind that the polling, as I've characterized it this week, is accurate. That right now Trump would win, and that the numbers are moving in his direction, and what's going on based on my reporting. So today, I talked to a Republican pollster who, again, is not a charlatan. He's a real pollster. It's someone I've worked with for decades. I trust him. He's never lied to me, to my knowledge. And I can't tell you the specifics yet, but he told me that one state that the Harris campaign is very keen on winning, of the 7. He said, I know that state really well. I can't tell you how, but trust me, he knows that state really well. And he said, she's not winning that state. Like, forget any public or private poll you see.
She is feeling the pressure. They are desperate. Many pundits and campaign officials believe she just hasn't given Americans enough reason to vote for her, they say. So yesterday, her campaign announces reparations are coming, with Harris now promising black men $20,000 forgivable loans if she wins. The loans, her campaign says, would be offered to black entrepreneurs in partnership with trusted organizations like mission-driven lenders and banks with a proven commitment to their communities. Think COVID stimulus, her campaign said. Desperation, that's what this is.
And sometimes there's a trend line that I never noticed before and make me go, whoa. This is one of them, all right? This is the Democratic margin among black men under the age of 45 in presidential elections. You go back to November of 2012, what do you see? You see Obama by 81. Clinton only won him by 63. Then we're all the way down to Biden last time around by 53. A tremendous drop already. And then you take a look at the average of the most recent polls, and Kamala Harris is up by only 41 points. That is about half the margin that Obama won them by back in November of 2012. And this, I think, is, when Barack Obama goes in last week when he was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, essentially talking to young black men, he made it seem like it was a Kamala Harris specific problem. This is part of a long-standing trend of young black men moving away from the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris is just the latest to face that magnitude of younger black men going towards the Republicans.
That was as Wall Street and big money investors with the inside track on the best private polling out there, have begun to double down on a Trump victory. Polymarket, the biggest of the betting sites, now has Trump reaching an all-time high this morning, with his chances of winning in 3 weeks at 57.2% to Harris's 42%. That's 15 points, folks. 15 friggin' points. And you wonder why the media is freaking out. Kamala even came out and tried to copy Trump again by courting the crypto market, promising to back crypto regulatory frameworks when she was pitching black men over the weekend. Desperate. She's throwing everything she can against the wall, hoping that something sticks. All right, that wraps up the news portion of this video. And before we go, I just want to give a quick update on the company we spoke about on Sunday, DeFi Technologies. If you didn't watch that last video, make sure to check it out. I did a deep dive on them. It's my only bullish call in the blockchain industry right now. I just want you to know where I stand with it. I really do believe in this company. They are on a rocket ship to outer space, folks. They just released their monthly corporate update showing assets under management again growing, now reaching $561 million US, up 49% since January, $6 million in inflows in just September alone. I'm extremely bullish on this company. And for the record, I normally stay away from it, like almost everything crypto. But this isn't a coin, this isn't an exchange, nothing like that. I think of this company as the vanguard of crypto. That's what they basically are. When I first found them, when I first came across DeFi Technologies around 8 months ago, they were trading around 50 cents per share. And when I first mentioned them back in June, they were trading for $1.30 a share. And I told you then how I believe this company hadn't even scratched the surface yet and that they're blowing up. Well, folks, today they trade for over $2 a share. Between that first video and today, so in 5 months, their share price has grown 70%, and almost all the growth, get this, almost all of their growth this year is from a single market, the Nordic market. They hadn't broken into the US or to Europe yet. Imagine what happens when they do. And they just announced how they're breaking into these markets suddenly, into the US market and expanding to Europe as well with their listing on the London Stock Exchange. All this growth, and they hadn't even broken into these other markets. Imagine what it could look like going forward now. So yes, I am still most definitely bullish on DeFi Technologies. Just my personal point of view. That's all this is. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.